Je suis orgueilleuse d'appartenir à cette nation. Je sais que Dieu, de sa main généreuse, s'est fait ce peuple avec attention. Les Métis sont un petit peuple encore. Mais vous pouvez...
Highway 9, south of Yorkton, Saskatchewan, takes you to a small dirt road leading to Crescent Lake. Crescent Lake was once a vibrant Métis road allowance community. Today, remnants of the cracked foundations, overgrown bush trails, and the old school remind us of this place that was once home to many Métis families. Some of the elders still point to the gardens and the paths they helped carve into the land. The rhubarb continues to grow every year, even though there are no longer people left to harvest it. Crescent Lake thrived throughout the 1930s to the 50s. These Michif families had connections to other Métis communities like Crooked Lake, Lestock, Lebret, and St. Madeleine in Manitoba. It was just one of the many places where dispossessed Métis gathered to rebuild community ties after the tragic failure of the Métis land grant system called SCRIP. The early 1900s were a time of marginalization, dispossession, and survival for many southern Métis. The Michif people moved on to the road allowances during the 1920s and 30s after being pushed off their original lands. Road allowances were the only lands left available to dispossessed Métis, as they were set aside for future road development. The Métis found temporary homes on road allowances, where farmers and government officials left them in peace until the land was deemed necessary. During the 1940s, many southern Métis found themselves relocated from road allowances to centralized government experimental farms, like the ones at Crooked Lake or Lebret. These farms were to turn dispossessed Métis into mainstream farm families. This video project by the Gabriel Dumont Institute documents the story of the Crescent Lake Road Allowance community from the perspective of its elders and its former community residents. They are a people whose pride and strength inspire the next generation to be proud of their heritage and language. The Crescent Lake Métis gathered to make sure the next generation of children were taught about why this place is important. The youth were taught about how life was lived by the elders. The elders realized that the Crescent Lake story is significant to the history of Métis people. The elders refused to be seen as a forgotten people. The story of Crescent Lake is one of land dispossession and relocation. Miles Pelchier, the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan Area Director of the Southeastern Region, tells us about his memories of growing up at Crescent Lake as a young child and his thoughts about why the Métis families got pushed out of the community. Miles shares his hopes and dreams for someday reclaiming the Crescent Lake community for future generations.
This was the happiest time of my life, growing up here. I wouldn't change it for the world. We didn't have lots, but we never went hungry. We had, money-wise, we didn't have much, but we had a lot of love. Everybody got along good, the Métis families. I remember going to school at the old school there. One year there was 105 students. So there was approximately about 15, 20 houses here at one time. And we had horses and a few cattle now and again, and pigs, chickens. We all had pigs and chickens, big gardens. And my dad worked for farmers, done a lot of trapping in wintertime, hunting, mostly ducks, deer and stuff like that. There was really not too many moose or elk around here. He scrubbed bush and picked roots, trashed, baled, hauled bales, and all the farm work that needed to be done. As long as the farmers needed us, they were happy with us. But after they didn't need us, all of a sudden we got no place. They even took our road allowances away. They moved the highway back in around 62. They moved it about a half a mile further. It used to come right past the community here, right? And then the snowplows and stuff wouldn't open the roads after that. They deliberately forced us to dig our way out in the wintertime, eh? So we had, in the winter it was hard because we had to shovel snow for about a mile to get out, and sometimes you were doing that twice a week in the wintertime, eh? And we had a priest out here that used to come and say Mass, Father Dale, say. So he started getting jobs for our people out there. I think this was a plan worked out between him and the government and everything. This is my opinion, okay? So the first couple of families, he gave them $1,000 a piece to move there, got them houses and stuff. And then he gradually got more, and then he promised all the families that moved closer to the mines that he will give them all each $1,000. But according to what I understand, only the first couple got the 1,000. The rest moved, they never got a cent. And after he moved the people that were willing to move, that were working in the mine, he come along with his truck, and he smashed the window, threw a log through the window, tied it down, pulled the houses down. So what did the people have to move back to? I seen him. I was 14, 15 years old. I used to watch him. As a matter of fact, he even gave us $3 to help him. You know, he'd say, give us $3, but I think the only reason he was giving us that $3 is not to run home and tell our parents what he was doing. Well, some of the furniture they took with them, like some of the stools they left behind, they were smashed up by the priest, and some of them had those old, I don't know if you remember those old crank and jute boxes and stuff with the big record. Well, they were smashed up and everything, because I've seen the old priest taking a board or a piece of wood, whatever, and smashing up that one old crank and jute box that Frank Vermont used to have. He destroyed it so people come back, they look at it, they were so disgusted they never wanted to come back. That's what I think his intention were, and I do believe in my heart we were becoming an eyesore to the government, and I think they had actually hired this priest to do that. We'll never know for sure because they will never tell us the truth, and the priest died years back. According to archives and stuff that I checked out in the archives and stuff, this land belongs to the Métis people. What a lot of people don't understand is, according to the papers in the archives, Crescent Lake School was the pilot project for Métis schools. It was the pilot project. They used Crescent Lake as the pilot project. That was the first Métis school built, and after that, then that's when they built the different Métis schools in La Brette, Willow Bunch, Meadow Lake, Allowance, all those other Métis schools came after that. But Crescent Lake was the pilot project. And the old school is still standing there. It's still in good shape. And if we do get it back, we could even use that for a training center or a museum, whatever we choose to do.
Gilbert Pelche was born in 1938 and raised around the Crescent Lake Métis Road Allowance settlement, which was then also known as Little Tokyo. Gilbert's mother, Isabelle Flamont, and his father, Joseph Joe Pelche, lived like many Michif families in the area as they lived off the land. Gilbert remembers that his father Joe was a great hunter and trapper and worked very hard for local farmers. It wasn't easy for the Michif people to make a living, as his father had to trap at night because of the restrictive game laws. His mother Isabelle was hardworking, and she used to prepare the hides and made moccasins and other things for the family. She was always resourceful and managed to raise 12 children. Isabelle taught her children as much English as possible before they went to school. However, the children learned the majority of the conversational English they spoke from the farm families they worked for over the years. Nevertheless, it was hard for the Michif children to attend farm schools, and they did not fit in easily with their obvious cultural and linguistic differences. People did not want them in the schools. Gilbert started school when he was 10 years old, but he had to leave school early because of a need to work. Gilbert did a great deal of farm labor. In his mid-30s, he did go back to school to obtain his grade 12. In 1962, Gilbert Pelche married Mary Pelche, and they had 3 children together. Gilbert and Mary still speak Michif in the home. Gilbert took Maria Campbell around to look at the old community of Crescent Lake and showed us how it was structured and where the Michif families once lived.
Quand on est vieux chemin, nous musst du Hilika oder spielt untergeben beschorg. Wie der Dom oder Gisnika schon, kach was geht oder der Dom geht der auch. Patlingen so brenno, der Dom auch Gisnika der auch. Aber es hat gei. Hier Mutter, denn da la Kavu war kach ki piche ki ak na makon. Chiar pe suma cu apă mau și ja ca chiar tal suma uta chiar pe cu apă ten uta suma la cavel va uta chiar știu acum când ca chiar uta chi mașina stava ca pe cum al suma e când ete la robar chiar pe cu apă ten ete și adai ca chiar știu Aku también le pui que este, cuando me pongo le pui que ya, aku tapi ko kakio lo que gustena, kakio peito te chukta, aku to che kia wata ya lo mana. Ye ka shayer, e mote che ke ya wata chik lo. Aku am ko le pui que ya gan.
The elders and community people gathered to explain to the younger people what it was like living at Crescent Lake on the road allowance. The elders talked about living in camps and tents, preparing traditional foods, trapping and hunting, and preparing homes for the different seasons. The children were taught about how to make plaster for log homes. Mervyn Pelche was born and raised at Crescent Lake. He is a member of the Michif Language Speakers Association and played a key role in organizing the traditional activities. Mervyn spent time teaching the children to set traps and snares. He also told them stories about the work men used to do, like setting muskrat traps, prairie chicken traps, rabbit snares, and making and repairing harnesses.
Okay. Es med lievuten misken. Mukole ukte gakutanenda. Kin wap min kia. Skem chubo sa prau te kanata mani kan. Chubo mota. Ta praca paște cum le boa. E ver ca mici wak. Skin wap minch weer. As je zegt.
Ja.
Zie je. Ze kijkt dan met dalle met juta, zie. Wij puto uta kak dan uta. Uta da zie. Du voor motor. Kaiskin uta. Apatén, pero me siše kako tan, amo u tega tan neko. Pe koško ne mane, pe wap min čeruta. Me siše, amo. Apatén no mane čeljeli, mu zom šmeli, amo me siše. Ak me kok uta. Apatén, lim še bo uta kačimata, ne mu kuteka mastači. Musiše. E not mina, ok taka čumatanina. U te tehke. E ok taka mahta ovako musiše. Če u te mina, nam će bo mina ok taka štan. Kao i vaškom ok tu kvale. Ok šiše go. Pa tenči, ške tene ko, či? I? É o que é quoi. E pisco que chama de negócio. O tempo do peganan. Por exemplo, Swiss. Do me escovar o tempo Swiss. Eu chamo no tempo.
The women elders told stories about the things that Michif women did. They talked about cooking, crushing choke cherries, making rubaboo stew, working with outdoor fires, making bannock, and drying and preparing meat. Their grandmothers also talked about women's work and life and remembered quilting, planting gardens, raising children, and working as midwives. This is what Kokum St. Pierre and Kokum Pelche remember about the old way of life.
Gipamun haskwanan kayas. Eko den gikape시nan den na nice place gikape시nan ya kimi na konuma. Como tanto que vichayama na matanta bapa sa ser. Eko itio. Alo choro ta dal tat pai de tik. Di fe sa ta nim waktio. Ta po ko to na dal tat pai. La twine ko to mushakinam. But eko toki ya, eko toki ya. Di soldo kiski ko tameko. Stana ne ko dala betan me di fe sa kani mit chek po wak be pasi da je khana ni. Eko talip wa kinam. Tachi mata no talip ko le kwale da la twine. Ta ko ta le kwale. Dal me matin, ni fe sa ko tam shweka pap mishkik.
Oh, yeah.
Ik heb misschien pas gehad, ik kon maar ik heb het laten doen. Ja, ik heb het laten doen. Heb je kiwi nog? Wat kiwi nog? Wat kiwi nog?
Ja, maar zit er maar aan je verder.
Kaya, maar kan maar kijken hoe je. Nou maar ik wou maar op je niet meer checken.
I think it was about 11, 12 years old. I came out to Crescent Lake. That's every man in the trip. Siach and dope pun siach. Good Lake. Bea macho ana de preta. Aí que tá mas da geli bit que assim chate. Aí que se que vai a me gusta. Aí que se que ma sa se puede pa esse mano. Sa se puede pa ya sta porque papá mun hasco ya. Ni rasine ta wa que ya. Sonia se que ya. Eh, que se ma muito que está lá, men. Aí que tem geli bit que se mate lá. Het is ook zoiets om de zwarte kappen na die vuur naar wat moet differentiëren.
Ja.
Maar die kan ik toch zeggen. Die gaat zo. Maar die steeds naar doen, maar zet die taapjes na te gaan.
Wat zeg je, wacht niet. Zo bij dingen, hè.
Je hebt dat voor. Ik heb niet gemerkt. De vier ook te zeggen. Maar de vent rigolo die taal. Ja, maar zo zeggen. Ja. Niet met taal. Eu ficar estava com água não tinha.
Ela betaninha.
Ja, dus maar no te kata slika winni ja kan ma. Eu a ben mo kita sa bo este sis kamen we kini ja. Da foi que nan mo da pseiti na. Da la série que é. Da me matenga. Se come psmeta. Ini ja van ik mo. Papa ambitia, mona has. Misi we kita mo te dale te keda de biu como te que greta
Nama ke koi chaya o ke kalamitchen nama ke koi yokshar mai kishi mi oya yan Pero dedi kan tao kita. Ipa siya gawin matutska na siya mirna. Mama man kisi pataho mo istal. Takoy manana pre. Kisi sa mangonan ma. Nemitia ka pre. Di mamsu mo sunan mana. Pre man di puer mina di mo sunan pre. Di pasenan mana. De hoort dele hier. Dan kuvar kita swegstan kita stan ti puer dal sale pasho pe aprem to nie pasho cheka preki dal darit sak ta shuatan pshe kon higmichen ka pipuka kon hinichiak di grenmina pasha man chikupit abal chikwata haman tama preba ki pashen preke dalit sak ta shuatan pan higi Kiesi samak kapi pohkaksha. Aktarme kift mitso yak mana. Giwang sinini nan mana kayas. Tapet piskmani gini yak. Ba gimustukta yak minamanit edoni yak. Asher si zwerli matema na ashemna. Kivemstukta yak gevare. Gemam shayes ksenon man kapikiske enim yak. Kapete piskanin yak. Ja, kun dan hel die gielo met de wetseken. Kimams mut kita ya mana. Kaya san ma. Kaya sis. Dali me zamana ka he kani mi chik. Eki wai vista chik mana kyo ko le. Li ko li puel kyo ko no ki wai vista wat. Eki wai wat chik mana teni ni mi ya ka pete. Eki mam shmut kita kayash.
Moja, da valeu os tios estavam. Aquele idiota tinha que ter os tios, não. Aquele idiota tinha que ter os tios. Espero que esqueciam outra aqui, que mostrou pan, mamãe, mas tanto que outra aqui que o Crescent Lake. Esta aqui está espinhando que não como quando mostrou. Teve lake quando ninguém que não estão. Da presa ko Crescent Lake ispitsina ne te ko gia na. Mishui tenista nangi pa ispitsina ne te batem ba pa ya to skete. Ki pa te pa ispitsina. Ba pa ki la ki to ske. Ko ka ki wa chia mishui te gia hi ko nan. Mina sa pa ki pa hi ke te kan mi ko ya. Kaya ko es kat paiket na mo inu ko na mi ko na sa pra ko no Métis tai ko ya ya msela mi zemba pa ki ya piso hiki wiki me matata ko apre ko an mo se ki gimio na pre bon funky wiki me ba pa les enfants qui ya we e ko ni sta na toi no de gimio kan op me ko na Dalla montanha passa, dalla montanha de tostica e tasticino. É que teus chefes, uma defende tanto aí, teus chefes tostica. Sarà che snicat che ti snicasso, sarà di culto. Dato se qua ma sono noi. Ma che la punta anche wiki mio. Che in paese corso io volta da dali smettere. Ecco, pressa che non schipe ecco. Pressa con papà istacca. Chica uite ko shege kon ki wiki to ka pre les enfants qui croient he mama matan me defenta mama ni gis ni kata na kimi ocho naspich kimi kana wap me konan.
Many people who were raised at Crescent Lake remember the good things about community life. Numerous people remember the old Allowance school. The school was created in the 1940s when the provincial government investigated how many of Saskatchewan Métis did not have access to education. In 1941, the provincial government made the first grant to a school district for the schooling of Métis children in Saskatchewan. One governmental official responsible for the Métis relief programs described these programs as, quote, a temporary relief to the symptom of this problem of economic maladjustment, unquote. There was a great deal of negativity towards the Métis in Saskatchewan at that time. Nevertheless, the Allowance school was constructed due to the lobbying of the residents and local politicians. From 1944 to 54, the schools in Métis communities in southern Saskatchewan were built by the Department of Social Welfare. These schools were based on the idea that the lives of the Métis could be made better, more useful, happier, better integrated into mainstream society. These schools made the assumption that Métis children lacked culture, proper society, and economy. The Métis elders, parents, and community members had to fight hard to make sure the children didn't lose their culture and language because of these assimilation policies.
Sisi pasti musesti kaluta kiawa. Utodam tam sit mezu kiwi kwakuta. Peka ya Mr. Hurskish ni kasho. Akona kini kanio. Sa famina. Sa famlia lim siza fawia kiawa uta. Small room uta. The big room Mr. Hurskik ta kiawi. Yakush kanama wati za fakta. Kinwe shish na mugshin tan Amico, uite ca cheia ce mă. Nu știi ce au făcut. Du Lutki Peter Tewa, Mr. Diduction Fashu, is a farm in Akwana, and not me Naki Peter Tewuta, Mr. Kamachuk is in Fashu. Which is Pepe Gomakalia, and Mrs. Meyer Mina Utaki, who's from Disafa, Disafa. Agina Kamun, Upshit guitar man, give me a one of you up, she's mina, Kinani min mina. Oh, yep, she's keeping it on. A poor Nusman up, she's man meant one. I can not any min mina, mistaking him in manner. To this, where money can him in Anuta, or Crescent Lake. Utamina Yadi, the Nosmanakia, I would tell. Shinman, give much Tana Manuta. Every night I got given an imina. Saplamana mi frere che question which you put near. The Mugi speech in your Donimian. Makagimeta one vielo. We want to move Kikasawa come with Metawachek vielo. So Safrania Kito Shehachik, you know, you don't matter one vielo, Kinimawaki, Mamuchitana amazing.
Jean Rousseau, nee Pelche, remembers how much she loved growing up in Crescent Lake. These are her comments.
I think I was about 5 years old when I moved away. I did my first grade at Ellery School at Crescent Lake. I don't remember too much of it because I was quite young, but I remember living in a granary at one time. It was in Crescent Lake. It was a farmer's granary. I remember we had to live there for a few months. And then we moved to a log house. There was a stove, one of those old stoves, and the beds, my dad made them out of boards. We didn't really have the beds we do now, but they were made out of boards. And the blankets, I remember my mom made all the blankets. I remember the big feather ticks that we used to have to use. And the pillows, I seen them making the pillows out of duck feathers and the flour bags. I remember outside our house, there was, that's where Mom used to keep her, those old tubs with a washboard. When I was younger, I remember playing in the tubs with and mixing the straw and the mud when we were kids. We used to put it on the walls. And I also remember them when they used to put the dirt high up, like at a certain level on the wall. They used to say they were banking the house. And I remember as kids we used to slide down that big pile of dirt, and then we'd get hecked because we were loosening all the dirt that they were piling up. There used to be so many paths that we made as kids through the bushes that they were just ground in, so we'd know every little path there was in the bush, and we know where there was every Saskatoon bush, every pecan bush there was in the whole of Crescent Lake. So when we were kids, we just dashed to one of those places. I remember us trying to jig, and I remember we'd all be like, the older people would be square dancing and we'd be on the outside, and I remember we'd be jigging and trying to imitate the older people, what they were doing, and we're just little kids. My grandma, the grandmas that's here, I remember her always encouraging us to dance, you girls. She'd tell us, go dance. I remember she used to really encourage us to dance, to jig and stuff like that. My Uncle Gilbert's dad, Grandpa Joe, used to always tell stories about Rougarous or Rougarous, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I remember they used to scare us when we were kids. The one that really stands out in my mind is about this once he said that they were walking, he was walking late at night, and it was by the school, and this dog come walking towards him. There was a tree standing, laying over the road, and he says when the dog went underneath it, all you could see was sparks on its back. But I could tell you my childhood was a lot different. Like after we moved from Crescent Lake, it was the worst, like it was like a nightmare compared to what I was living at Crescent Lake. When we moved to Esterhazy, I remember first going to school there. There was no other Native people at the school, and for me and my sisters, it was really hard because when we were going to Alry school, it was all native. So for me, it was easier coping with, like I said, it was, to me, it was just one beautiful thing after another at Crescent Lake. The word I guess I can use to best describe it is freedom. For me, it was fun, lots of fun.
The elders wanted the young people to know that life was hard, but they made time for recreation and games. They made a good life for themselves. The elders wanted the young people to learn some of the traditional games like can-can, horseshoes, the knife game, and how to use slingshots. According to the elders, the games helped young Michif children develop important skills for a traditional lifestyle. The knife game, le petit couteau, was a favorite and everyone had a knife. It was played by both girls and boys. Gilbert enjoys teaching the younger men to play this fun game.
Ba pa mai ki kuskana ma ko ya. Ki sta me to ma no chikuto. No ko makanya nan. Gi mam chet na ma ka me to ya. Tamasa pra kwa she pechta en ta ka me to ya. Shik smart stan. Presa mishe. Presa mishe. Anani kane po yo to kwa no ta fuel. Abshis ma gi mame to kanan. Li kap mana kaya wa akbok. Gi ya chikanan mana. Kayash mana kameto ya kuma kina katstawa ka test. Nos kuma nos. Sapra ka kio ti dwe bushe. Ni kanu mishe. Ni kanti zonglota presato posota ka kio. A presauta. Automa ki aiman. Ka naučko ki koi chachisti shonada. Ke ka mana. Sì, a presa mana umishishe. E come shishe mina. E come shishe. A presa umishishe, but come shishe kai to tabara kana ma ka uta hueta ya. Ni ave ana ni kan ka po yo to kana uta hueta.
E ko tama sa mana ki
Gi mam chet na ka meto ya mana ba pa mana ki meto we wista pa vinena. Ka pe ko meto ya kuma gi ka kshu meto ana li safa. I kak shwai tonan. Pe bapa ka do ka pech ma yak mana to to ba gi mashkami konan. Ak shishe ba sapra ki po ya. A presa mana gi pa meto anan en plat yush hanan. Abli lesh yush hanan de plat view ba. Ka chi ki ushaya. It kama de ki chama te watrua. Shishe saprazi. Shishe qua. Shishe. Shishe. E qua shishe. Shishe qua.
The can-can game, which has similar rules to the game of cricket, was also played at Crescent Lake for fun.
Eko na haku tak kue pakama kue ta plata kusi aso pahtawa. Akse kai shimeto ya kwa mana yim shamam shimeto ana. Kaini kangi skate na. Ske kwa pahteno ma. Kuma o takta stanta bat. Pana hanete wike ka kana tamti kanuta. Kayo mo ka kana ta sa pro hikaya ka no sa pro kwa hikaya ka kana ta kana te uche. La plat shue pelache, au tap wat make ka pakama ho pe ke a sho pata gota. Sketen? Ja. Aha, kuchi ma gota. Che guarda? No.
Gilbert looks back fondly at the Michif way of life and the rich social and cultural life in the community. He remembers that there were always talented fiddle players, such as Arthur and Alexandra Flamand, who entertained the people. Gilbert enjoyed dancing and often called it square dances. In Crescent Lake, the Michif families all lived in log cabins, and the person with the biggest home would often hold the dances. The Michif people were good at jigging and square dancing, and it was common to see them dancing the reel of 8 and the rabbit dance.
Do you remember that old fella when he used to sing, that old lady used to sing in the Revue Diane, and she used to dance?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we had no instruments, eh? And this old lady used to play, Revue Diane, that little day, that little day, that little day, you know. and this whole man would be dancing the chick to beat out. Yeah, they used to go, and they danced to beat out of that. And we had one guy that used to whistle pretty good too. He used to whistle tunes, eh? We used to even dance to that. But this old lady was the funniest one. And this old man would like to dance, you know. He'd dance all the time, you know. He'd get up and he'd just tell this old lady that, this old lady, if you die, that little down. Okay.
The Michif people had a rich storytelling tradition. This was one of the most important ways to pass on values, beliefs, culture, history, and knowledge to the younger generations. Gilbert tells the children about some of the outstanding stories that he heard from his father and other relatives as a child. Here is a beautiful story about a man who was protected by wolves.
The model states will take up a that. The Kuzel Kiu Katochik, Peku Kawa, Perk Sokose, then Tatmaki or Kiwi Oliga. May quite the Achmuch, the Achmwalk, it was an Octava River Perk, Picutaka Sophie Zipa Pech Tatuma. The way we stamar so shower, Sokose, the way we stamar for you. May quite Sophie Zipek Taka. Come to a week, sir. Tausta who so goes out of hurry. You know, the play my to tend to us. You know, that not a passion, no got up with Taka so the Oxinum, no Swatia got much in a quite to. Not a passion to so goes there. So that Sakara bin kaut nach spue partau. A pipi con patjual spue partau et tapashit. E kai di poliska kachnikot. E kai smakan shoy kachnikot. Aksesha ki pamamo, kin wesh ki pamamo. Wo taki in farm taki awo ne du farm taki awo da steeds minut pas du tru farm ki awo. Ik kan maar qua zoals kaya moet. Je op die farm ja. Zet ook ki pomel. O chão que quata tal. Que ama qua chani testam. Sabtit ko wat kaut nach. Den sit beter zu dan veruma. Dat sila bit. Ki do out que doa para a conel precisa o daqui mexendo que a conel vai saber que vai tomar coisa o daqui que o daqui não põe antes tam o daqui me escaca wen vai nem pique o daqui me escaca wen cabe tak cheguei vai é pedro esnit caia por martir já porque para mexendo que aí se que paguetemo que am kan põe aqui testam He grolo ka pep machine ta kotiwia. At kotiwia ka pep machine. Hashim da ka pek matwe chike kwai. He no te she grolo ta vina. Peaka de va peaka na rier. Peak da sa tet peak da sopi. Eki pe machine to he grolo. No kawachu. Ki shoshka ko he lilo. Ki di grolo he ki shoshka ko. Mark jak się jakiś Nepal. Mają się łapomnik. Mają masjid. Mają masjid. Di loska paskoczek się prepastał się. Kutei nakiwa kanua maczek. Paskosa się prepastał. Di loska pep mit chokot. Ke ko ma pas shak ki levde peri ki mischet wak ka pas shot levde peri ki shro atet piki aya shame silo ke piko ke kana pastat silo sa pa ki shamat ki micho ko hililo he pesa tala tate at e ki ketoma di parski skehtomak tandi ait ki peito te te prata eu cada horosche. A joal ma que a okoke. Pero ia pa joal. Hey, tu so ko to schaut nach la tat ki task schawatam. A ko to chi ki wai amo. Ta pa shit no que no ma hio le bois. Ki na ka te o hedi fo ki musta ska te o hedi fo. We are people di fo ki di pas ki awak. Ki musta ska te o hedi fo. Li loma ko he ka mikot di lo chima ho ko ka mikot di lo ki wichikot ki shok esna ustana
Isi te lo ki wichikom stahi
mestahi ki wichiko si lo ki mamo kin weskap mamot ke da to sai put ki po meu sham Guatakistan ki Guatakisho o sam stai Guatakistan te tamesha ni paris ni do ap mawak o sam Guatakistan ta pa ki do ap di paris ata ye ke nachki te chikip mamot ke apeta ko shino ka no dano ka hitu ta ko da kin wes me kip mamot Neva kip mamo, ye ke sa ki kiskusho. Akoma ki kishista ka kiponi hiko. Kapa sa karabin kaot nak dala vil tuhteu. Kido la pa se kido ita hamta. Ko she wa to ye to da usang Guatakistan. No shmeno te Guatakistan no te Guatakishon. La polícia kano ap meu ne va kip mamon ki Guatakistan na va hep mamoyen sa kala ben scout na ki miel ki stom sa kala ben li kartosh ki miel larja ki miel how the farm tizafa do kano do skap bek tak shiki spak nega sho ak shima kas paski shvon stamina ki shvon stati si lugno ki wap me ki stom no mau haka wichikot ai no gidoe no mau ska wichika shot ki po meu que sa que si te log de me ka ki wap meu
We'd like to revive our language, and we got one of my cousins, Gilbert Pelch, is teaching classes. He's been teaching for the last year. So we're hoping to teach our younger people and not to be embarrassed at our language, because it's a proud language and we're a proud people. But a generation back, we were embarrassed. Our people were abused by the white society to the point where we were embarrassed to even speak our own language, or our parents are embarrassed to teach us the language. But now that we know we're a nation of people, unique to any other nation in the world. We got a language that's unique to any language in the world. We're proud of it, and we're hoping to teach that to our young generation. And as a leader, I hope I can do as much in my power to see that we constantly get funding until we reach the point where every one of our Métis children are fluent speakers in the Michif language.
We put this video together to show the next generation about the Michif way of life at Crescent Lake and teach the children about their roots to this place. The elders wanted the youth to understand their connection to the land. The elders claimed that the Michif language is a land-based language, and to learn about it, one must be with the land. The elders showed us that the community had a rich cultural and social life. The old people still gather here every year to remember this place. Their homes may be gone, but the memories remain strong.
Around me, within her blood it flows. I grab her by her golden curls and drag her round and round. I dragged her to the river that flows through Knoxville town. Go there, you Knoxville girl with dark and rolling eyes. Go there, you Knoxville girl, you can never be my wife. I rolled and tumbled the whole night long. My dreams are a living hell because I killed that Knoxville girl, that girl that I once loved.